welcome to more isolation, but a spoonful of sugar will help the medicine go down, although we have quite a few spoonfuls of sugar today. I had a list of what people wanted me to make. Chocolate cake seemed to be a roaring success, so I'm making my mom's chocolate cake, and eggplant parmesan was the other thing. I am going to use the other suggestions though. I will make brisket, I will make the blitzas, and we will continue until we're out of house prison. Although I made many jokes on Facebook today, actually not today, this week, about that my husband breathes too hard, or he eats too loud, or my children don't bend at the waist. But boy, am I thankful that I have my family with me, because I can't imagine how horrible this would be without anybody around us. Anyway, here's my chocolate cake recipe. It's a big chocolate cake recipe. Instead of making chocolate cake, I'm going to make cupcakes today, just because I have some people requesting some deliveries, so it will make it a little bit easier. So we start with just 2/3 of a cup cocoa. We throw it in. If you have a Cuisinart or food processor, that works perfectly fine too. To that, we're going to add not just a teaspoon of sugar. We're going to add 2 full cups of sugar. Yum. Then we're going to add, in here is 3/4 teaspoon salt. We have 1.5 teaspoons of instant coffee, just the grounds, not the with water. We have and 1.5 teaspoons of baking soda. That's all that's in here right now. We're just going to throw that in. Let's mix up just the dry ingredients. So far, we haven't put the flour in. Peter will maybe show a little close-up of that. It just looks like a cake mix. Now we're going to put in 2¼ cups of flour. Whatever kind of flour you have on hand will work. All-purpose, cake flour, pastry flour, whatever you actually feel like will just be fine. I put a little bit of vanilla in this. You don't have to, but I love vanilla. I used to not put any of the salt that it called for in my recipes, just because I thought, why bother? But it actually does bring out the chocolate flavor a little bit. I'm going to check my eggs again, so I'm going to put 3 eggs in here. Again, we just make sure that it's nice and clean, no blood spots. 1, 2, and 3. There we go, all good. Now, the liquid that we put in this, we can make this what we call a parve cake, which means there's no milk in it. So when Jewish people have a meat meal, if they're good Jews and they keep kosher, which I don't, you can go ahead and add milk or buttermilk or sour cream to it. For Jewish people, if you're serving a meat meal, you do not serve dairy afterwards. Therefore, I put no milk, no buttermilk, no cream, nothing in this, so that this could be served with a meat meal. If I was serving a dairy meal, I would go ahead and use buttermilk in this, or sour cream instead. But this is delicious the way it is, which is 1.5 cups of orange juice and 1¼ cups of just regular oil. So I'm going to close this here, and I'm going to just slowly pour it in as it mixes up. It's a super fast cake to make and so delicious. So if we're doing this in the Cuisinart, you just pour it through the little top and it mixes up beautifully. But this mixes up so well anyway. I've made this into a beautiful bundt cake before. You can make it into a shape cake. My mom, of course, would make it into a double layer cake with her special icing, which I'm trying to remember from heart because all of my recipes are at work, but I think I can do it. I think I can remember it. I think I can duplicate it. So we will be doing that after these cool. That is the whole recipe. Soon I'm going to be pouring it into these cupcake molds. We are going to bake it at 350 for about 15 to 20 minutes. If you're doing a bundt cake, you bake it at 350 for about an hour. If you're doing a double layer cake, you do it at 350 for about 30 minutes for each layer. Convection cooking is a little bit less. Remember, you take off some time or you take off some temperature. So here we have our cake mix all ready. And it's delicious and it's yummy, and you get a bit of that orange flavor. I actually hate coffee, but when you put a little bit of coffee in this, it makes a really rich, beautiful chocolate cake. The icing that I will make later, my cousin and I used to tease my mother. My cousin Dorothy and I used to hope that she, what we call, flubbed the icing. It has to be done over ice, and if it wasn't cold enough, the icing would flub, which would mean it wouldn't become all into peaks. And Dorothy and I loved it when it was flubbed. It tastes really good both ways, but my mother would often throw out a batch if she considered it flubbed, and if Dorothy and I were there, we got to have the flubbed icing. So after we do this, I will put this bowl in the freezer. My mom used to put the bowl in a ice bath, which we could do too, and then I'll show you that recipe in a minute. So while we're at home on isolation, Publishers Clearinghouse has suddenly become my friend. So I ordered these little bowls that pour cupcake batter in very nicely. So let's see if Publishers Clearinghouse is going to once again serve me well, much to Peter's chagrin. So that will stop it from going all over. So you'll fill these about 1/2 to 3/4 full, and then I will put them in the oven, and I'll see you back here to start our eggplant parm. So I have a dozen cupcakes made here, but it's such a large amount of batter that it makes that I'm also going to make a little round cake. May even make more than that. I have 2 tricks to getting a cake out of a pan. One is just this: you spray it with the cooking spray, and where most people will tell you to sprinkle it with flour, I like to sprinkle it with sugar because I don't like the taste of any flour on the top of my cake. So I sprinkle it with a little bit of sugar here, and then this sugar helps it not stick. If I have something that's very difficult to come out, sometimes silicone pans I find are a little bit difficult to come out, I make a mixture in the Cuisinart of Crisco or shortening, equal parts, flour, equal parts, and oil, equal parts. I put it through the Cuisinart and then I brush it on with a brush. But here, I'm just gonna use this. Oh, this will make a nice size cake. I might cut it in half and then make it a double layer small cake. And my icing is the best part of this cake, although this cake is pretty good too. I always liked to lick the batter when I was young. Still like to lick the batter. Be back in a minute. Just in case people haven't seen an eggplant before, this is an eggplant. My husband went out and got me some. You can also get little baby ones. They all work fine. Everything's the same. I'm just going to show you what we're going to do with these. We're going to slice them nice and thin into little coins like this, not peeling them. We're going to put them on a piece of paper, not toilet paper because that's in heavy demand. Then I'm going to take some kosher salt. I will do more than this. I will do the rest while you're not watching. Sprinkle the kosher salt on, and we're going to let it sit here for half an hour, and the salt makes it weep. It draws out all the liquid from it, and then I'll show you the next step. Okay, so I normally would make my icing over an ice bowl where put it in ice and water. I can't find my hand mixer today to do that, so I put some nice frozen bags of fruit in here, and I put this in the freezer so it'd be nice and cold. Now again, I'm doing this from my memory. This is my mother's recipe. My actual recipes are at work. I believe it's 3 tablespoons of butter, which I have here. That was 1 cup of icing sugar, but it might be 3 cups, and I'll tell you as soon as I start mixing. The reason for the cold bowl is because this is melted chocolate, and I'll show you what kind. It is the unsweetened baker's chocolate. And what happens with this recipe is when the chocolate gets cool enough, it makes a very nice consistency to the icing. They say, what's the difference between icing and frosting? Apparently icing is thinner and frosting is not. I don't know, I've always called them both the same because my mother did. Okay, so here's the chocolate. I melted in the microwave. Just do it for 1 minute intervals so you don't burn the chocolate. Also, chocolate is super, super hot when you melt it. You can really burn yourself. A teaspoon of vanilla. And I'm going to put this down. I'm going to start mixing. Now that warm chocolate should melt the butter, and this cold bowl should help it continue going. I'm putting just under a quarter of a cup of evaporated milk. So not the sweetened milk, the evaporated milk. And I'm going to keep mixing. And hopefully the cold will do exactly what it's supposed to do. It looks like it's going to. So what it does is it starts very, very dark, and when it works, it gets a little bit lighter. So Peter, maybe we'll come closer and have a look. By the way, these are the cupcakes that came out. I will probably have to double this recipe for how much cake I made, but you can't double it at once. It does flub completely. You have to do it one recipe at a time. And my lovely daughter Jolie will be happy to put the recipe as she's been doing in all the videos. The nice thing about this is because we use the baker's unsweetened chocolate, and it is only a cup of icing sugar, it's not terribly sweet. And it's a wonderful, it's my favorite icing of all time. It's the best. So here is our icing. I'm going to take it and show you. That cold bowl worked beautifully. And here we go. And it's a beautiful consistency. It's so good. So, so good. So I'll be icing those in a while. Now, I did show you that the eggplant, I put the kosher salt on it for it to weep, or have all of the liquid start to come out of it. So you can see the liquid is starting to come out of it, which is great. That's what you want. We will dry it off. In here, I have 4 eggs. And if you remember last week, I made my lovely green stuff. So my green stuff is every fresh herb you could think of. I have a spoon here. It's every fresh herb you can think of except mint. It's garlic, it's onions. So I'm going to put about a tablespoonful of that in with the eggs. I'm going to beat that around. In the oven, I have another sheet pan like this, and I've poured olive oil on it, just enough to skim the bottom. It's going in a hot oven, the same 350 oven, until it gets hot. When these are all dipped and ready, as I'm going to show you here, they will go on that hot tray. And I'll come back and show you that when the tray's nice and hot. Now, I've used panko breadcrumbs here. My best friend is gluten-free. I'm making her one today too. I'm using gluten-free breadcrumbs on hers, so I'll do that on a separate platter. If you are still celebrating Passover, you can also use matzah meal and season it up with Italian seasoning. So now that this is weeping, I hope Peter got a good picture of it. You see the water start coming out, seeping it. If it's too wet, it will make for a very wet eggplant parm. So that's it, and I'll be back in a minute as soon as my pan is nice and hot. I'm just dabbing off my wet eggplant. The salt has done its work. I have another tray in the oven, which I'm just about to pull out for you, that has the oil on it. The oil will be nice and hot, and so we will put we're going to bake these instead of fry them. We could fry them, but instead we're going to bake them. It's a little bit better. So now the oven is up to 400 degrees, and I have put this pan in here with some nice hot oil. The oil is here. Very simple directions here, because we've already seeped the water out. So the egg already has the nice green stuff in it, so it has the flavor. So with one hand you dip, with the other hand you put it in the panko, and then you put it on this hot tray. Again, you dip the egg, the other hand you put it in the panko. Now I'm going to keep doing this, and then you guys can come back when I have them all crisped up, and I'll show you how we put it together. Hi everybody again. So my cupcake, my icing was a little bit too tough. I probably would have added a little bit more milk to mine, but it tastes really yummy still. So for this is so easy. Everything I do is things that I want people to be able to do at home. So we're just going to put a little bit of any sort of bought sauce on the bottom. We've already flavored up our eggplant because we've put it in my green stuff. Now, this is the non-gluten-free eggplant, which I did in the panko. I have them in the oven, the ones that I did gluten-free. So my cousin Estelle on my YouTube said, make more gluten-free things. So I'm going to show you how to make a lot of things gluten-free as well now. And this is one of them that nobody would ever know is gluten-free. The only reason I didn't do them all gluten-free is it's a lot more expensive to do it gluten-free because gluten-free breadcrumbs are a lot more. So we're just putting one nice layer of the eggplant. Then we're going to put another little bit of the tomato sauce. Then we're going to put some of the Italiano cheese on top. And you just layer it almost like lasagna. And all those flavors come together so well. Now I'm going to put another layer. But one of my very favorite things you can get here, I hope you can get it wherever you're watching, are these Parmesan petals. They're the best, and that's what I'm probably going to put on top. And it's pure Parmesan, where the other's a mixture of the Italiano cheese, and it is so good, and it looks so pretty on top, even before. You can do it after you bake it. I like to put it on before. If you have bocconcini cheese, that's also very good in the middle. But this is such a nice meal to make even for company. And that's it. We're gonna put some more sauce on. And then I'm gonna put some Parmesan, just the powder, which I actually could have put in the panko if I wanted to too. And then let's top it with my petals. And then I'll put it back in the oven at 350 for about half an hour because everything is already cooked. We just want it to all go together. I'll put a little bit more Italiano cheese. And when this comes out, we're going to serve it with some spaghetti squash, and the pasta sauce that's in here will be just delicious. I'm just going to put a little bit more on, and I will show you what this comes out like in about half an hour. And it's actually a fairly healthy meal because I don't fry the eggplant, I bake it. So hopefully we'll see you again in a few minutes.